Geocachomaniacs.
GeoGearHeads.
Welcome to GeoGearHeads. This is a weekly show. Yes, every week we're here. We talk about geocaching and geolocation games. I'm Chris of the Northwest, along with our illustrious host, Daryl W4. And Daryl, this is one of my favorite episodes. This is episode number 370. However, it is episode 78 of the Randomize series.
Randomize, your favorite show of them all.
It is, because I'm so random.
Well, we're kind of all random out here, but that's just because we're geocachers.
That's right.
But you know, it's been a crazy time with the weather and everything. I'm sure you guys are doing a lot better than we are, but I'm watching the chat and the Canadian contingent is bragging about their -25, -21. What was it? A -28 degrees, and that's all in Celsius.
That's Celsius.
So
yeah.
I'm thinking that's worse than it sounds.
Well, you know, they're approaching positive Kelvin.
Well,
that's a bad
definitely
thing.
positive Kelvin.
No, it's negative Kelvin, isn't it? Yeah.
No, Kelvin is absolute zero. Right?
Oh yeah.
No
yeah,
temperature.
You're right. I'm sorry. They're approaching 0 Kelvin. Yeah. Sorry. I had it backwards. The joke's ruined because I didn't understand math.
Oh, maths kind of sucks sometimes.
Math is hard, especially when you have to do it in your head.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
No, math is not hard.
Which is why we use computers.
Yeah, that's true. Math doesn't fit with Randomize because math is, you know, the same every time.
Well,
2
unless
plus
there's a bug in your
2
processor.
always equals 5.
Or code.
You know, for large values of 2.
Right.
Well, think about it.
Yeah. Were you on one of those teams that designed the Intel processors back in the 90s?
With their floating point integer problems?
Yes.
I just heard Mike Rose, that's the way I heard it today, talking about the founder of Intel and how, because he stole a pig, Intel was founded.
Oh, that's awesome. I am so jealous. I have not been able to listen to podcasts at work lately, so I'm so far behind.
Oh, you know, I don't know how far behind I'm in this series, but you know what? It's one of those that they're, you know, 7 to 10 minutes. It's a nice little commute one to listen to, and you know, you don't have to.
So there you go. Our first tip of the show is Mike Rose, The Way I Heard It.
That's the way I heard it. Yeah.
Which is what we have recommended on the patron feed in the past. But yeah, awesome show. I just look forward to getting that one every week.
Yeah. I started from the beginning, so I have a lot to catch up on. So I have them whenever I need them. But yeah, that's a good one. So Daryl, you're behind on podcasts. Which one do you miss the most?
I would have to say it's that and 99 PI.
Yes, 99% Invisible is another good one that I listen to.
Though that one has been getting a little bit too diverse lately with their inclusion of other shows and redoing the old shows. So that one I'm not as fond of lately as I was previously.
Okay. Yeah, they've branched off into some others, you know, food and clothing and different things in there, and it's okay. Bounce in the chat says he'll have to try that podcast. He likes Stuff You Should Know.
I used to listen to that one for probably about 3 or 4 years. Even into Discovery having bought them.
Right.
And I think it's still owned by Discovery.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, but I haven't listened to them in probably 4.
I think Discovery bought them. Then I think like ABC or Disney bought Discovery.
I thought Discovery was still out on their own, but you might be right.
I think
I'm
I
out of
think they
date on
got,
that.
I think there was a bigger fish that swallowed them, but
Isn't there always?
there's always a bigger fish according to Qui-Gon.
Meanwhile, Cashosaurus says that he's still going through the beta episodes.
Ooh, I'm sorry in advance. Okay, they were beta. That was Daryl. How many years ago was that? 7, 8?
That's 6 years ago. We wrapped up the betas.
Okay, so 7
we're
years
in our,
ago is when we
7th year,
started.
right?
Yeah.
Or are we? Maybe we're in our 8th year.
I don't know.
So maybe it's 7 years ago. I'm having problems with the maths now too.
Oh! See,
it's contagious
to do math in your head.
It's contagious. That's what it is.
It's not the math in my head that I have a problem with. It's knowing when we started and trying to figure out that while I'm counting out years.
Well, since we've been babbling about nothing relevant to geocaching for 5 minutes,
this is the Seinfeld of
with the
geocaching podcast.
Let's kick it off with an article on the geocaching blog, One Map Endless Inspiration. And this is talking about a new map function that they're bringing to us. So before we actually get into some of these features, and I've not tried it, have you actually had a chance to fire this up?
I have not. I saw it and go, okay, that's great, but I haven't done anything with it.
Yeah. So you have to actually make the switch yourself. You have to go to a new map. So just do your search or whatever you want to do normally to get to the map. And then when you get onto the map screen, click on the blue banner at the top of the page, then select map these geocaches. So actually, I guess you'd have to do it from the search page. I don't think you can do it from the map page at all. Does that sound right from that description?
I think so, yes. Yeah. You know what? We're sitting here in front of a computer, aren't we?
We are.
Okay, so if I go to the map page, and I have all these here. Filterable cache types. No. Set map preferences. Okay, so no. Sorry, this is making great radio. And
it's not making very good video either.
Oh, okay.
At least for the video, you could be sharing it.
You do have more options, I believe, in the search.
Okay.
Minimum favorite points. Yeah.
Yeah, the search, you have the options to do map filtering and stuff like that right from the map. New settings allow you to select how many caches to show on the map at one time. The default is 500, but it will go up to 1,000, which still isn't enough for some of the things I wanted to, but it's certainly a lot better than it had been. And then they switch from the raster tiles to vector tiles, which means it's going to be faster to load and probably a little bit better. Well, vectors are faster in this case because the rasters, it has to download as like a bitmap file and reload that same tile over and over again at the different resolutions. With the vector tile, it has to download only the shapes essentially.
Oh, it is much faster.
Yeah, it can draw.
As I'm scrolling in and out. Yeah.
So it doesn't work for things like, the vectors don't work for things like the satellite imagery because that's actually raster to begin with. But for things like topo and road maps, the vector should make it a lot faster.
Mm-hmm. Okay, me like. And so, yeah, you can filter by cache type. I think we said difficulty and terrain ratings, size, cache status, if it has corrected coordinates, geocache keyword name search, not found by or hidden by, minimum favorite points, all from the new side panel on the map.
And we have the option to hide or show all your DNFs on the map, which is always a handy function.
And you always hide those. You never admit you didn't find something.
Or you hide everything but those.
Oh.
So that you can try to avenge them.
Avenge my DNF.
And I thought you could do that before, but I'm probably not remembering that correctly at all. Because when's the last time you actually did a search on geocaching.com and went to the map page? Probably the last time you did a trip. For me, I want to say it was Gigastock.
Oh, interesting. You zoom out enough and you don't have the option to hide your finds, your hides, or your DNFs.
Oh, interesting. That makes sense.
Yeah, you have to zoom in a bit. So if you zoom out where they're just the colored dots, not the individual icons,
right,
you don't have the options.
They're clusters.
There you go.
Yeah.
I guess mine isn't clustering.
Oh, it doesn't actually cluster then?
No.
I'm not doing this at the same time. So
I've got just, piles of dots.
Okay.
Green dots and blue dots, and
which also
red hearts and green rainbows. Wait,
what Custer says
branched into breakfast cereal.
By Grathis GPSR, I will avenge you.
By Grabthars. By Grabthar's GPSR, I will avenge you. Here. Are you a fan of I suddenly forgot the name of the movie. It was Tim Allen in space.
Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy Quest. By Grabthar's hammer, you will be avenged.
All right, so when hovering over a cache in the side list panel, it will highlight the location of the cache on the map. Thank you. This is going to be a very, very nice feature.
Oh, yes.
And then filter geocaches included in a GeoTour. Also handy, but I'm not sure how much I'm going to use that simply because there's not a lot of GeoTours out here. And the default sort is by distance, near to far. You can also choose to sort by favorite points, difficulty, terrain, size, found date, and date placed. So that's going to be most helpful for a lot of geocachers.
But we're not done. Now, how much would you pay?
Just the regular geocaching.com annual subscription.
Oh, $30 a year.
Right.
You can also view a list of geocaches from a search without leaving the map. See geocache details in the side list panel that includes terrain, difficulty, size, favorite points directly from the map. View a cache details while previewing on the map. Details include the cache description, hint, activity logs, last found date, yada, yada. You can also download the GPX or send it to a Garmin.
Well, one thing that you kind of skipped over is that you can actually add it to list right from there.
Oh, I did skip over that.
So that's going to be really handy for those of us trying to do it, for the list of caches we're going to hit on a trip.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can take that to Cache Turno.
The Italian mapping program, a Cache Turno.
Well, it's not Italian, but
no, it's not.
I'm trying to remember the pronunciation that they emailed to us. The
Cache Tour
audio file. That was Cache Turno.
Cache Tour. I think it's Cache Tour, but the NO is for Norway.
Right.
I put that in there as Cache Turno. Let's see. As you pan the map, and you should pan a map, a new search this area button will appear to fire off a new search on the map. If you click into the cache details page from the cache preview, simply hit the back button to return to your search. Nice. And you can view the event date in a cache preview list for event caches.
Now, so far, this is making me think I'm not going to be using the caches along the route as often. I'm just going to go to the map and start scrolling around.
Add them to a list.
Yep. Yeah, because my previous workflow had been create the route, do the pocket query, and then preview the pocket query to pick my selections, but I never actually generated the pocket query. So for the routes that I'm more familiar with, I'm probably not going to bother with the what's it called, the cache along route.
Probably not. No, not if you can sort by difficulty, which is one of the things the cache along the route helped with.
Yeah, well, you take your basic search, go and do it from wherever your starting location is. You start panning, you hit the refresh as you need to grab more caches, and then you're not dealing with the pocket queries at all. Well, I shouldn't say that. You're not dealing with the pocket queries until you need to get your list into a pocket query for the GPSR.
Right.
So under the do more category, they have add all geocaches in the search result to a list. They have that flagged as one that's only a premium member feature. Right click on any cache bin to quickly log the cache, add to a list, download the GPX, or open to the cache details in a new tab. That's going to save me a lot of time right there. And then on the side panel, you'll have add geocache to list, download GPX, send to Garmin, all from that nice list at the side there. Use the URL to share an exact map view when a cache is selected. Handy. Select only specific caches from the side list panel and add them to a list all at once. So, basically, I guess, check them off and add them to a list. You got that in front of you, Chris?
No, I do not.
Well, fine.
I don't think I'm actually using the new maps yet, to be honest with you.
And then search the world. This removes all location constraints from your search. For example, you can actually say, show me all the web caches worldwide.
Really? Oh, if you do a search, then you get this new one. Now I see it. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. No. Oh, me likey. So you can sort easily by whatever, let's sort by favorite points, high to low, and boom, it's done. And then you can take those and say, put those on a pocket query. Search this area. Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Okay. So there it goes. Okay. You can log. You got more info. We pop out that panel. No, it goes right to. Okay. Yeah. Daryl, this is a winner.
I'm anxious to give it a shot. I just don't have the time yet to check it out. So in the next couple of months, I'm going to have to, because I want to do some road trips and check that out. I'm going to make the effort to not use caches along the route this time.
Well, if you have to, what are the settings? Oh, how many caches should we show? Oh, we show 1,000. Why would you show anything less?
Because you don't have enough room in your GPSR.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you don't have enough pixels on your screen.
Interesting. Yeah, this is nice.
Excellent. I'm anxious to check it out. Well, let's move on to the next piece of new news, which happened, I think, just today. And some of the geocachers are probably going to want to tune this out because it's Munzie 4.0.
They may want to tune in because it's Munzie 4.0.
They might want to as well, but Munzie 4.0 is actually out, but it's an entirely new build, not in the same channel as the version 3 was. So you have to install the new app and eventually delete the old app, because the old app is going to stop working.
It will be deprecated for a while in the future.
Yes, but they haven't said when they're going to do that. I think it's in part based on how long it takes the version 4 to roll out worldwide. But it is a new one, and the thing that I noticed is it's now under Freestag and not under Munzie.
Freestag. Wet Coaster says he's been using 4.0 for a couple of months.
Oh, interesting. Were you in the beta program, Red Coaster?
Maybe he's a beta guy.
But they just made, I think it may have actually come out on Android before it did on iOS this time. That could be what happened too.
Apple has had some issues lately.
Yeah. They're getting a little pickier. Yeah, he was on the beta program. But yeah, they've been getting a little pickier because they've had so many problems. And you caught that Apple pulled the enterprise license certificate. That's what it's called, the enterprise certificate from Facebook, because Facebook had some apps that they were distributing under their enterprise certificate, which were collecting way too much information.
Mm-hmm. No, from FaceTime or from Facebook?
Yeah.
That surprises me.
This is, they just had a major bug that they actually disabled FaceTime group chat to prevent until they could get the fix out.
So anything we still haven't face on it, on the Apple, any app with the word face in it, that's been taken off the store. FaceTime.
Well, no, they haven't gotten rid of the Facebook app. They've only gotten rid of the Facebook Enterprise Certificate, which is the distribution that they were using to get these testing, they're not testing, but the, like the market survey kind of stuff out. So it was tracking pretty much everything is the way that I read the article. Like where you're going and what you're doing on everything on your phone. No,
and Facebook would do that?
I'm
shocked.
Don't you just,
for those of you that can't see my face, that's sarcasm.
Yeah, but you just kind of assume they were doing that with the app anyway.
Right, exactly.
They were stealing your text messages and uploading them to their servers years ago. They, almost everything is blocked that, so you can't do that anymore. But it's like, yeah, Facebook always overreaches. Anyway, getting back to Munzie. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, when you install something on the Android, it says, hey, do you want to give it these permissions? And you look through it, it's not like I want to, you can't be granular and say, I want to give it this, this, and this, but not this one. It's a yes, no, and they all go. And I don't think people pay attention anymore. I think it's just become, yeah, I want the app. So yes, I'm going to say yes here.
Well, and if you do decline any of them, a lot of those apps just shut down and won't work.
Right.
So, boo. Anyway, getting back to Munzie. Main feature updates include new and improved map loading speed, new square pins for physical Munzie, and round pins for virtual Munzies. That's going to be really nice because I got confused by that quite often. Updated artwork to include all types in pin form to more precisely show the location of the Munzie. New interactive walkthrough tutorial hosted by our buddy and newly energized rover. The reorganization.
Did they give them batteries?
Probably.
Okay.
They have to, I think, before a major release like this.
He's newly energized.
Right. Well, and it's a brand sponsorship too, I'm sure. Reorganization of the filters into categories, making them easier to sort out. Players can now perform or combine multiple premium filters at a time.
Nice.
That's going to be handy. Larger, cleaner font throughout the game. Improved compass that is more clearly indicating the north point. Were you going to say something about the larger font?
Yeah, the larger font for older people like me. I'm like, what does this say? I'm an old guy.
I just want
get off my lawn, kids.
So many of the apps now are going to this low contrast, like dark gray on gray. Yeah. Oh, Wet Coaster pipes up that the Munzies that evolve will have the stage number at the bottom of the icon, which we'll probably get to in one of these later bullet points, but that is a cool feature. Improved follow feature to keep player marker centered on the map. New in-app announcement system that will deliver news directly to the players.
Nice.
That one I'm not sure I like.
Well,
as long as I can turn off the notifications for it, fine.
Sure.
So
you could get spammed, right? Yeah, I get that.
I had to turn off the notifications from Munzie because I was getting so many notices about the what are they called? The mystics, I think they call them, where you've got the icons that hop around like the unicorns and yetis and stuff like that.
Right.
I was getting it so often that it was blocking out on the notifications. Hey.
So they've added more, but wait. The Munzie capture button at the bottom changes between square and round depending on the type selected on the map. So you always know what type you're looking for.
Again, handy.
Pouch creatures and evolution Munzies now include stage numbers. But Wet Coaster already knew that. New alternamyths and all places premium filters. Filters now apply immediately. Players do not need to save each time they choose filters. Players can now see what filters they have set for each preset, making it easier to edit and make changes. Magnet and special timers now show down to the minute and seconds. Added new inventory section to the profile, making it more clear to new players what they have available to deploy. And that's kind of nice because you always had to look online before.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really just getting everything into the app, which at this point, so little of the game, I'm sure, is happening on the website that this is, everything needs to be in the app now.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Players can now quickly tap to capture from the list view using the new green button arrows instead of sliding to the entry list. Tapping on badge notifications in the activity feed now takes you to that specific badge in your collection. Oh, good. So you don't have to scroll through all of them to find out, did I make this? Added a countdown timer to the leaderboards when it will reset in Munzie headquarter time. That's MHQ time.
So very, very cool stuff. I'm anxious to give it a shot again.
So it's John Gardner. He's downloading it now.
Yeah, and he's like me. He doesn't use it very often. Mm-hmm. So it should be an interesting change. We'll see if it brings more people back, because we know a lot of people have tried it. They play it for a while and they drop out. And whenever you have a major change like this, it brings them back in.
Right.
This has happened with things like I can't remember at the original Niantic AR game. Ingress, thank you.
And Pokemon Go, when they do a new, what do they call it, with a whole new set of creatures?
Generation.
I want to go evolution, but that wasn't.
Well, and Generation 4 is coming out now. So they have something interesting to brag about in their game as well. So
there you go. And I don't think I have it on my new phone.
Well, that would make sense why I'm not getting gifts from you anymore.
Sorry. You know what? I'll send some in the mail to you.
Well, that's much easier.
Yeah.
Doesn't help in the game, but it's much easier.
Oh, okay. Well, and with the temperatures, there's no way you're going outside to play Pokemon, is it?
No. And that's one of my problems is right now, I'm not doing much of anything.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
you've been under the weather, and right now there's a lot of weather to be under.
Well, it's mostly that I've been working too much. The weather just helps me to not be as annoyed that I'm working so much.
Yeah, I gotcha. Because if you're working the long hours, you don't see how cold and miserable it is outside.
Exactly. And I'm very happy to not be outside in that cold, even to, keep a cash a day streak going, which,
Oh, can you imagine right now trying to do that in, those cold weathers?
I can, but I don't want to.
I mean, can you imagine? I'm just thinking you'd have to take your gloves off to open up a micro or something. You don't want any exposed skin at some of these negative temperatures.
Oh, absolutely not. Coon and Bud though wants to have us mention that the weekly eventsies are gone now. They're killing those off, and I saw something on Z-Ops, which I didn't have a chance to read, but it looks like this might be the last month for Z-Ops as well. They might just be resetting it. So if someone actually knows in the chat, hopefully they'll let us know. But when you get the big version releases like this, you do expect some of that kind of stuff to disappear. Make room for new stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, Z-Ops, that was a tough one for me to get behind. I like the idea, but to get to the next level either took money or more effort than I was willing to put in.
Yeah, that's kind of the same place that I was.
So Coon and Bud wants me to open their gifts in Munzie, or in Pokemon Go.
Pokemon Go.
I would actually have to load it up, and so no.
At least not right now.
Let me be upfront. No.
Let's move on to a posting on the Federal Reserve, or Federal Register, rather.
I was going to say, wait a minute.
I've been talking about baking too much this week. Sorry. They're actually going to be doing some study or something about the what do they call it again? I'm trying to find it in this mess of text. The rollover, the GPS week number rollover. So this is going to happen between April 6th and 7th. And they're doing some kind of testing. And they're actually looking for people to help them from the posting. So we'll link to that in the show notes. But there's a few questions that you have to answer if you're interested in helping the SMC/GPE understand your receiver's expectation behavior during the upcoming GPS 10-bit week rollover. So I'm thinking this is really probably more for the developers. Yeah, well, more for the developers than it is for us.
Well, it kind of sounds a bit like the Y2K problem where, they didn't think ahead long enough to include all this. So now as week numbers get bigger and bigger, they're jumping outside. They're going to jump beyond the 10 bits that they're allowed. And so they may have to reset them. And some GPS receivers may think it's several years in the past.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm going to make a comment on is the number of typos in this posting really makes it hard to read, in my opinion.
I thought it was just me.
No. So I don't think this was vetted well enough before it was posted. At least the spell check would have helped. But question number 1, does your strategy involve user input?
Well, yes.
Do the users understand and know the procedure?
Obviously not.
And then 3, is the procedure detailed in a manual or other document?
No. If it was, the users would understand and know the procedure.
And 4, is the procedure manual or documented posted on your website?
Going with no there too.
5, are there concerns for any automated systems your receiver is integrated into?
Let's say maybe.
Of course.
Oh, this is fun. Yeah.
Number 6, do you plan on posting product advisories for each receiver type? If so, where?
I'm going to go with cheese on this one.
Cheese. So cheese
the
correction
on a tortilla.
I thought it was on the GPS. I thought you were recommending melting cheese onto your GPS to fix the week rollover number.
That could actually, no, let's not do that.
Okay. Has testing been completed to perform receiver performance expectations?
Yes, we expect expectations.
Would you be interested in participating in the test by either 1, supplying receivers and technical support to test with government teams, or 2, testing using your own test setup and configuration?
Now, can we do this with government cheese as well?
Yes.
And Francis wants to know what kind of cheese. I was thinking mozzarella, but if it's government cheese, it's probably, bright yellow cheddar.
or that nasty American stuff.
That's not real cheese.
No. But I didn't think government cheese was.
Oh, yeah.
So number 9, how many receiver types will you be able to supply test for this effort? Note, not all receiver types may be applicable to this test event. So I'm thinking this is more for the likes of Garmin and Samsung and those guys.
The big ones, yeah.
Well, actually, probably not even Samsung, because they're not a chip manufacturer. And going through that list again, I'm thinking it's more for the chip manufacturers than it is for the end receiver manufacturers.
So just in case you wanted to know, when you hit 1,024 weeks, that's almost 20 years. It's 19.6 years. So, how long has, we're hitting 20 years of, geocaching. So,
well, the thing that I really took away from this posting is they are expecting some of those older receivers, probably some of the newer ones as well, to need some kind of manual update. So I would not be surprised if you need to get a new firmware for your receiver that's going to flip something so that it will understand those numbers.
That makes sense.
Well, that's really what I came away with from this article, or posting.
My thinking is you would need a new firmware to set a new base date.
Correct.
That they're counting the weeks from.
Yeah.
So when you hit 1,024 weeks and it goes to reset to 1, it knows, oh, wait, this is, by the way, this goes with,
Well, and I would think that units with firmware updates in like the last 5 years probably would have done something like this.
Mm-hmm.
So they say, if the number is this, it's, from these dates. If it's below that, it's from these days. So it knows.
Add 1,024. Yeah.
Right.
If X equals 1, add 1,024.
Yeah, basically. So I'm assuming that most of our units that we're using today are going to be correct. Most of the units that were older are going to probably need some kind of manual intervention, whether it's a firmware update or doing something else that the manufacturer tells you have to do on the unit itself. But
I should go power this gun and see what he does.
I'm sure that one's going to have problems.
It has problems anyway, just getting a signal. It takes a long time.
Well, and it probably doesn't even know to handle the new satellites.
Probably not. Yeah.
Probably not even the 2F series satellites. So it's going to have problems because it needs to get that new almanac, and it might not understand that new almanac. I remember we had that issue on the 60 that they had to, the 60 CSX, that they had to actually update the firmware to accept the new almanac.
I'll just go get a firmware update. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Sure.
What is this? It's a GPS 80. It's a GPS 80.
Oh, that's newer than I thought it was then. I thought that was like one of those 1s or 3s.
No, it's a military one. So.
Oh, got it. Well, the other good news that we've been talking about it for about a year now.
You're talking about those FN satellites?
Yes, I'm talking about the satellites. The first of the GPS 3 satellites has successfully launched.
Woohoo! And the reason I used F in the satellites is because we're on the 2F generation.
No, this is the third.
We're off now, the new one is the third, right? The old one was the F series.
We're now talking about more new satellites to start. I don't want to say decommissioning, but not replacing even, but augmenting.
Would this be a 3A or just a 3?
They're just calling them 3s. I think A becomes the first
iteration
revision on it. So
we're going to when the Canadians
take 30 of these, I think.
When the Canadians take it over, they're all A's.
Ooh, you're going to have a very angry co-host on your next show, I think.
Yeah, I do all the time anyway.
Well, why don't you read this article and maybe he'll forgive you.
On December 23rd at 8:51 a.m., I don't know what Cape Canaveral, so East Coast time.
East Coast, yes.
Was the launch of the first, it just says 3 satellite, GPS 3 from Launch Space Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, Florida. It will be added to the current GPS constellation of 31. Each of these circles the Earth twice a day in a medium Earth orbit, which altitude of approximately with an altitude. But that must be a typo.
Well, this is my fault because I quickly tried to summarize the article.
Oh, altitude of approximately 12,550 miles. By the way, that's 20,200 kilometers, but you guys already knew that. GPS 3 brings 3 times greater accuracy and up to 8 times improving anti-jamming capabilities. So with GPS 3, you're just going to know exactly where the geocache is hidden. Or where the person was standing with their older GPS when they decided this is close enough.
Yeah, not at all. And you do need new receivers to actually take advantage of that greater accuracy. And you will get better accuracy, but you're not going to get that 3 times greater accuracy without the L5 signal.
I'm surprised to see it circles the Earth twice a day. I thought they were in geosynchronous orbit.
No. We went through that on one of those GPS shows with Limax, as I recall. They are actually moving, and they can reposition them to fill out the grid or the constellation. It's not in a
yeah.
grid. But the whole point is, if they were stationary, it would be less accurate, as I recall. Because then you have to keep them in a stationary orbit. So by having them moving, it ends up being better all the way around. But that's what the almanac is for. It gives you that map of those satellites, and those satellites are reporting their position so that you can find yours.
So, Daryl, you're saying they like to move it?
Yes. Very quickly, because they're going around the entire Earth twice in one day. I would not want to have a race with those guys.
No. Well, and you get them up high enough. That's some serious speed.
Absolutely.
12,550 miles.
And don't get in their way.
No. Can you imagine the math, talking about how hard math is, of knowing of all the satellites around our planet, where they are, how fast they're going, and what trajectory? Wow.
This is why we need computers to do the maths for us.
Yeah. Or people like Limax that can do it in his head.
He probably could.
I think so.
Maybe that's why he's still using a GPS receiver. He's actually got some kind of special readout, so he gets the raw data.
Ooh.
And he's just doing it in his head so that it's faster and more accurate.
So none of the let's go back to the GPS 3. There's no GPS receiver currently that has GPS 3 capability. No smartphones do either.
Correct.
So with just one satellite up there, even if you had that capability on a receiver, you're not going to get much increase.
Well, and this release didn't seem to mention when it was actually going to go online. So they are going to have to do a lot of testing with this before they actually bring it online for like us to actually be able to use it.
Right.
It's in test mode for a while because, among other things, this is the first one.
Right.
It's going to take them a while to make sure everything is perfect, probably update the software on it, because this is also the first one that actually has upgradable firmware on the satellites.
Can you imagine?
Maybe the 2F, I think, had upgradable software as well.
Well, that's when we had the space shuttle program. We just go up there with a USB drive, plug it in, and update it.
Right, USB, I'm sure.
Oh, it was probably actually 5 1/4 inch floppy on some of the old ones.
I was thinking at best we'd have 8-inch, but
hold on, let me reboot with the new floppy in.
Yeah, probably the like 9600 baud serial connection. That's about the best they could probably pull off. Anyway,
Coon and Bud says, "Isn't there something about we must be moving at 6 miles an hour to stay accurate?"
That's actually something in the receivers themselves, if I recall. Most of the receivers are built for navigation, so they're more accurate when you're moving. And my understanding is the ones that are actually built for like surveyors tend to be more accurate the more they stay still. So I think that's what's going on.
Yeah, I think it's the chipset that determines that.
I think it's more than the chipset, because I seem to recall some of the surveyor equipment was using the same chipset, but they were using different software on that to control it. Different firmware.
Sure.
So
you mean the maths inside?
Right. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into the GPS, and sadly, we don't have Limax to help us out with it today.
No. Do you think there'll be new Garmin receivers with new chips for next Christmas? Asked Francis.
I don't think so.
Oh, I don't think so either. I think it'll be a couple of years.
Yeah, well, I think we might see it about this time next year is my guess. But they just don't come out with the handheld receivers as often as they used to. And they're typically at least 6 months to a year behind when we start seeing the chipsets on the cell phones that can handle it. So right now we're seeing them starting to support the Galileo system. So I'm thinking if we do have new Garmin receivers within this year, it's probably going to be just adding Galileo, not actually adding the GPS 3. However, I would not rule out that those chips for Galileo support wouldn't also support L5 after a software update. I wouldn't promise it, but I wouldn't be too surprised.
It's different frequencies.
Yeah, the radio
different modulation. So the rate, yeah.
But I think at this point, if they're already going and building the chips for the Galileo system, they're just going to update it for everything and just have it turned off in the firmware. So that's what I'm thinking, is it might be firmware upgradable rather than let's have to build another set of chips for GPS, in 6 months when we actually get the approval to do it for GPS 3.
Gotcha.
So it's purely speculation. I have nothing to base that on except my intuition.
I never bet against his intuition. But Daryl, that's all we can fit into this week's episode.
Yes, and unfortunately, we're not going to be doing a patron show tonight. So hopefully, we're going to do another one of these, not too many weeks off, and we'll have more feedback from everyone else and more time to do it, but I wouldn't count on it.
And we need to rest our voices.
Yes, we need to rest our voices and get some sleep.
And it's too cold to do a patron episode.
Yeah, we don't want to send you frozen content. We want it to be nice and fresh.
Oh, fresh, never frozen content.
Exactly.
Right here on GeoGearHeads. So
it might be warmed over, but it's not frozen. Sorry, didn't mean to hurt you like that.
That's okay. You got me there. Next week, we are going to be talking with the one, the only Bounce. And if you've been out to Washington State and seen some of his gadget caches, you'll know why we want to talk to him.
Check the Cachemaniacs website at cachemaniacs.com for more on the GeoGearHeads, including show notes for this and all of our episodes. We love hearing from our listeners, so leave us feedback by emailing geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com or through social media. Your support helps keep the Cachemaniacs shows coming. Please consider becoming a patron through the link on the website to support the Cachemaniacs shows. GeoGearHeads is produced by Chris Offenauer and Daryl Wanberg. This show is copyright 2019 by Daryl Wanberg. All rights reserved.
Cash with the Cachemaniacs.